Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alan Spaeth. I'm part of the IBM North America SWAT team for Information Server. And today I wanted to spend just a couple minutes going over the installation of the Salesforce pack and subsequently doing some basic tests to validate that it has indeed been installed correctly. A couple things to note. This is for a Linux install. It assumes that you have already downloaded the pack and it's ready to go ahead and install. If you are in a distributed installation of DataStage where you have the engine and the WebSphere on two different servers, you'll need to run this exact same sequence on both servers. If the WebSphere and the DataStage engine is on the same platform, then you just run it once. I'm going to go ahead and first expand it, and from here I'm going to cd into the server directory and I'm going to run the install script. There are two ways for the most part to run it. One is by default, which tries to invoke the graphical interface browser. If that's not supported in your configuration, you can run it in console mode. I'm just going to run it in console mode, which basically is just a text menu system. This will ask us just a few basic questions regarding the install itself. English is the language I'm selecting. This is providing us feedback as to what the pack is that we're installing, what version, so we can verify. One return will take us next. This is the licensing agreement. One in return will accept. At this point, it's prompting us whether this is the default directory, or I should say if this is the location we want to install. If it's not where we have Information Server installed, you would change this respectively. This is my location, and it's just saying to press 1 and to go forward. It's now going to prompt us for the user ID and password. This is the Information Server Administrator user ID. Port number is whatever the install person selected it to be for the connection. In my case, it's 9445. Now reaching out, and it has connected to the Information Server Services tier, identified where we're going to install, and we simply hit return and it will run through the install steps. The installation steps at this point will take anywhere from a minute to several minutes. Should be less than 10, but 4 or 5 minutes is not uncommon. So it's finishing up the install, creating the uninstall script, and we have completed the install. We're done. Next step is to go ahead and test the client side piece to make sure that we can connect to Salesforce and that our install was successful. Moving on now to test the connectivity piece. Going to use the DataStage designer. Now that we have installed the pack, we should see on the right hand side under the palette Salesforce connector. I'm going to create a very simple job just to verify that the install went correctly. So I have the connector. I'm going to read the account, and I'm just going to go to peak. Here's our connectivity pieces, our user ID, and your password. The password is your normal Salesforce login with a token, which is the token that the API uses. That can be requested by the Salesforce administrator in your organization. I'm not using proxy. If I was, you'd fill those out respectively. Now I'm going to go select Browse Objects. At this point, it's reaching out to Salesforce using the API to collect the metadata. We then reorganize it and present it so that it's easy to traverse, which will ultimately be used to create the SOQL for you. Again, I'm going to go after the account object, and I'm simply going to grab just a couple fields. Again, I only want to demonstrate that I can import metadata, which I have. So we've validated already that we can connect to Salesforce, import metadata, and you can see down at the bottom here, it's created the SOQL for us. The import mechanism also brings in the appropriate column names that we've selected that match the SOQL. I'm going to go ahead and run the job. This will go after a different API, which is the web service read mechanism. It's a query all. Down at the bottom, you'll see the event log in the designer interface. And the couple that we'll want to see is that the login was successful, which this one says we did. We're all in. The next thing you should see is a few records coming out through peak, which essentially is just capturing and showing us a few records that have been dropped in. This is the simple test data for us, so you can see that. We did get some records back. At this point, we have successfully installed and verified that the connector is working fine. Hopefully this was helpful, and you have a great day.